Good day, folks. Welcome back to another time video. So this one's a little different. Tons of requests lately for bull trout patterns. Yeah, I can't really figure that one out, but hey, you guys want to see them? I will tie them up. So I don't have a ton of patterns. I only have 3 or 4. I don't fish these things very often, but I do use these streamers for walleye and rainbow in the Columbia as well. A couple times a year I go down there. So anyhow, this is a pretty simple articulated streamer, not super fancy, but it's definitely caught me some fish. So this is a size 4 streamer hook, and you can use a shank if you want. I just end up clipping this hook when I'm done. So this will be the back half of the fly. I've got some 8/0 white thread. It's only because I don't have any white 6/0, otherwise I would use that. So again, nothing super out of the box here or fancy, just a bunch of marabou, a little bit of shine, and that's about all there is to it. So kind of want my tail about a shank length, so that's pretty close right there. And I just trim that marabou before I tie it in, and then I just capture it, run it back, to the bend, and you can see I wasn't shy on the marabou there. All right. Now I'm going to take somewhere I put them. Where did I put them? Right there. I'm going to use a schlaupen feather. This is white schlaupen. And I'm just going to tie that in by the tip right here at the back. And then you can use wire for this if you want, but I'm just tying in some mono. This is just going to rib the, or protect the schlaupen. So you could do that like woolly bugger style if you wanted to. You tie the hackle in at the front and then capture it with the wire and go that way, I suppose, if you like. To each their own. Now the body is medium UV polar chenille, and this is in silver. So I like this stuff because the core is also kind of a silver gray, not just the fibers that come off it. So the whole body kind of takes that color on. And I'm just going to wrap that with touching turns. All the way up. You will have to bear with me on these flies. They are outside of my tying realm. And because I may fish them once or twice a year, I usually tie them once every 3 or 4 years. But with all the requests, I thought it was a good excuse to change things up a little bit, get something new on the channel, and give me a break from staring at tiny little hooks. So you can see when I tied in my marabou, I left like a hook eyes bare shank up front here. And that's just going to allow me to kind of tie off my few materials without building a ton of bulk up at the head. So I just trim up that excess chenille and crank back on it a little bit. And now I'm going to grab this schlop and feather and just start to wind it up, sweeping the fibers back as I go. You can brush this all out afterwards, of course. And we should get one full wrap right at the head there. And I'll just tie that off. And just trim that out. Ditch that. Pull all this back. I'll just wrap back on that just a little bit. All right, so basically we got a flashy woolly bugger. So I'm going to come in and just wiggle this mono through here. Again, I'm not too worried about trapping stuff down. Ooh, try not to let it go. Just wiggle my way up. And anything that gets trapped, just kind of fish it out of your way there. And then I'll grab a hold of this up top here. I want to make sure I've got that cinched down nice and tight. And then we'll just build this neat little head here, like so. And somewhere, come in with this whip finisher. And that's it. So, if you want to, you can come in here and just brush this all out. So if you did trap anything with that mono, it'll kind of come out there. So now we have the wicked little back half of that fly. Super easy. You can tie a woolly bugger. You can tie that. Okay. So now we just put that off to the side. Now we're coming out with the big gun. Hopefully that thing is in the screen. I never even thought about it. Bear with me. Make a couple adjustments here. Not used to these giant hooks. Okay. And we're back. All right. So now, this is a Gamakatsu B10S in a size 2. And somewhere, So you can certainly use wire for the rib. On that fly, I kind of screwed up and forgot to take out the wire. So that's what I had, but all works the same. There's really no purpose to it. It just just going to cover up the that hackle. So now I'm going to use this mono. So because I use the front hook, I don't worry about how strong this back hook is. I'm going to tie it in so it ain't going nowhere, but the fish are going to take on the front hook, so you don't have to worry about the hook pulling out or anything like that. I've heard mixed reviews on front hook, back hook, whatever it might be, but whatever your preference. If you want to leave the front and go with the back, then maybe use some wire for this instead, but however you like. So I'm just putting a couple beads in there to kind of hold that back. And I'll get a couple wraps and then come in here and just snug that up. I don't want it super tight, but that looks about good there. So this is where you'd like the 6/0 because you can really crank on it. Okay, so that's got good range of motion. And I'm just going to bring this up. Like so, and then I'll just double it over. So if you're going to use your back hook, you might consider dipping it through the hook eye and back around. But there's way better streamer tires out there that will have videos certainly better than this one. So check some of them out for different ways to connect these things. All right, so before I go too much further, come in with some of the good stuff. Make sure that's sitting right on top. And then just give that a liberal smack with the old glue. That's not going nowhere. While I'm here, I'll just get these thread wraps as well. Okay. Now we need some more marabou. So for this one, you want a similar feather to what you used in the back. I like taking the whole feather like this, and then I just snip out the very tip. So just come in here and snip that out of there, and then you're just left with the super flowy fibers. Okay, so this here, try and get my measurement somewhat correct here. So you like this about almost to where the your other marabou ends, or starts, I mean. So if I'm going to tie it in right at the front, probably looking about there. It's pretty close, I think. And then grab a hold of that marabou. And just kind of divvy it over top of those beads. Kind of like so. And then that will flow back into the tail, and it kind of tucks those beads away. All right, now we tie in some more wire. Going to be the longest tying video I think I've ever done. All right, so capture that in nice and tight. So the front's very similar to the back. It's just obviously at the head we're going to do some different things. But one thing I like to do is this schlop feather here is a little bit wider than the last one that I used, and I want to have this a little bit thicker up towards the front. It's going to act as kind of a support for some more marabou that we put up there, and just help to give the fly a little bit of body when it's in the water. I don't know much about streamers and tying them. As I said before, I tie a few of them, and those are my go-tos. I don't really go outside that box, but they're one of those flies. The crawny, put it in the water and it pretty much looks like it does out of the water. Some of them are a little bit different, obviously, but this stuff is completely different than what you think it might be when it hits the water. So having a little bit of body, especially when you're using marabou, will help you out quite a bit. So I'm going to leave enough room to tie in the head of the fly there. So I'm kind of going to use 25% of the hook for that. You can also, you know, there's lots of guys out there that'll spin these materials into a dubbing brush together and wrap them up that way. And there's a bazillion different ways to tie these things, but I just, like usual, keep it kind of simple. All right, so that's about as far as I want to go with that there. Proportions are everything with these things. Pretty easy to overdo stuff. So just wrap back on that just a little bit. All right, now I'll take my schlop in and just going to start wrapping it up. And then, so this is where these thicker, webbier fibers are. And so instead of just doing one wrap, I try and sweep these all back and get 2 full wraps in here. Just like so. And you can come in and we'll tie off that feather. Okay, out that goes. Sweep that back and just wrap everything down nice and snug. So you can see as I go, I'm trying to keep everything nice and even here. Okay, so we got a little bit of support right there. Actually, getting ahead of myself here. Line this mono up. Secure that to the shank, and then you can crank down on it really good. All right, so now you want a little bit of a smaller feather, so you can see the fibers on this thing. If I kind of pull them out, you got to be a little bit picky with it. Run kind of, when I wrap it, it's going to tie in with this front hook tail. So that's kind of what we want. And then we don't need a ton of wraps with it. If we get 2, that would probably be plenty. So I just kind of prep the feather. I've peeled back the stem there, and then I'll come in and I'm going to tie this in by the tip. So I'm just going to create a little space in here, trying to keep this feather under control if I can. And just snip that tip off and come in here and capture that. Just like so. All right, now we're just going to wrap this like we would a hackle. So I'm going to sweep all those fibers back. And as I say, you're only, if you get 2 or 3 wraps with this, it's kind of all you're looking for. And it might look a little bit unruly at first. That's totally okay. Kind of like so. And then just capture that sucker. And then you can clean it up. All right, now I'm going to come in here, sweep all that marabou back, and just clean up that tie off. Wrap back just a wee bit. All right, so as you will see, so that you can see what that schloppen does. It kind of holds up, gives a little bit of body to that marabou there, and that's kind of what we're looking for. So that'll, once it hits the water, of course it slims down, but it doesn't slim down too much. So you get a little bit of profile there. Okay, and now if you had some dumbbell eyes, you could tie those on if you wanted to. Now I'm going to just use some stick-on eyes, and then we're just going to dub the head. So got some ice dub here, and I'm just going to grab a decent amount of it, kind of like so, and just try to kind of plucking it from the ends and bringing it to the middle, so it's all about the same or similar length. And then I'll come in here and just get a hold of that, kind of like so. Come forward just a wee bit. Okay, so that looks all right. Now I'm going to flip the hook over, do the exact same thing. And then if you want to, you can throw in some red dubbing right on this flat spot here. So right here you could wrap that in red dubbing, kind of gives it a cool look. And now I'm just going to split, pull the top back and the bottom back. Try to keep everything else out of my way while I do it. And just cinch all that down, kind of like so. And if there's any stragglies, I'm not going to worry about them too much, but just clean them up. And we are almost done with the tying part. So give this a whip finish. Like that. And then we come in with some of these big old eyeballs. These are probably a little bit big for the size of the fly, but they will certainly work. So we just try and get them on there. Just let them chill out for a sec. Somewhere over here. Now I'm just going to come in with some resin and so I kind of have my light ready there. So basically just filled enough to kind of fill the gap in between those eyes. Like so. Flip it over. Come on. Make sure that stuff's nice and cured. So it's basically on top and on bottom. If you want to coat the whole eyes, you can, but those are pretty strong. Just like so. Let that cure up, and there you have it. So again, I'm not a streamer master by any means, but they're a fun little tie. They're not super difficult. I'll just take some wire cutters, snip that that back hook. But yeah, that's it. So again, you can use the eyeball method like this, or just tie some dumbbell eyes on there, and then you'll put a stack of ice dub behind them and a stack right in front of them. Do that top and bottom, and that'll give you a weighted version. But lots of movement with the back hook, tons of flare and fluff with the marabou, and yeah, there it is. That's one of the first streamer patterns, I think, on the channel, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, fun tying something different. So I've got another one coming, not quite as elaborate as this one, and it's in an olive color. That'll be the next video. That doubles really good, as was probably my best big leech for the fall, and super fun to fish on still water. So chuck this one in the rivers for the bullies, and stay tuned for the next one that you can use anywhere you fish. So there it is. Thanks very much for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't. And until the next one, cheers and tight lines.